Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Now in this video I'm going to show you how to set up JellyFin running on your Raspberry Pi under Docker. Now just quickly in a nutshell, if you're still trying to wrap your head around what JellyFin is, it's just a self-hosted multimedia service that you can, again, self-host. You can run it on a Raspberry Pi, on your desktop computer, whatever, but the reason I'm running this on a Raspberry Pi is that it can always be up and running, so you can always connect to it. And running Docker just because Docker's easy and it's an easy way to manage all our little self-hosted services. So I will kind of just show you around the demo version that we can do over JellyFin in a second, but I'll just kind of cover over the steps that we're going to do in this video real quick. So we're going to install Docker just to make sure that everyone has it. Then we'll create the JellyFin directories. I'll kind of cover what the default directories that are suggested look like, but I'll kind of show you about how to set it up for external storage. If you're not using external storage, it doesn't matter, you can still create these directories, but if you are using external storage, you can follow along at the same time, rather us deviating down all these different paths for external if you're using external. If you're not, this should work for both. There would just be one extra step for those who are using external storage. We'll create the Docker container, then I'll show you how to upload some media to your new JellyFin multimedia server. So just looking at the demo that JellyFin provide on their website, we can have a look around and just kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like when we host this ourselves. So you can see that they've kind of just got a few movies, music selection and TV shows. So that, for example, if we clicked on TV shows, you'd have like a list of all your TV shows that you can watch or that you've uploaded, and same with movies and stuff like that. So an idea of this is that, say if you've got all your physical copies of DVDs and music that you would really like to digitize, you can then, copy these onto your computer and then upload them onto your server, and then it's just a way easier way for you to watch them on the JellyFin app that you can get on mobile. They have a smart TV app as well that you can set up. Connect that to your Raspberry Pi IP address, and boom, you can connect to it as if you're watching Netflix and stuff, but it's all your own hosted multimedia. I think you understand the principle of this, but the reason I'm talking about JellyFin, there's other versions, other types of services like this as well, like Plex, but they have like paid versions and stuff where this is open source. No limits, totally up to you what you want to do with it, and it's quite lightweight as well, so it's great and fantastic to run in Docker on Raspberry Pis as well. But enough talking, let's look at the commands that we need to run and we'll go about doing it. So we need to install Docker. So we need to SSH into our Raspberry Pi and we'll run these commands. So straightforward, it's just sudo apt install Docker, and it's always nice to bring down Docker compose as well. These commands will be in the description, and we'll just hit enter. I already have it installed, so I don't need to install these packages, but you probably will, and just wait for that to download. If you followed my last video with like installing Nextcloud, you already have Docker installed, but it doesn't matter. We'll now go into the next step. So now we need to create the JellyFin directories. So what we'll do first is kind of look at the directories that JellyFin tell us to use, and I'll kind of show you or explain to you kind of maybe we should use some different directories. So on their website, you can go to jellyfin.org downloads. They show you the Docker commands. These commands will be in the description, but so will the link, so you can actually come here as well if you want to look at them yourself. So the commands they have is telling you to pull the image, but this bottom command will actually do that anyways. And they also tell you to make a directory under serve JellyFin and with the config and cache folders in there, as well as a media folder, which isn't even in this directory, it's just somewhere else, right? So up here they're telling you to create these, and they're going to assume your media is stored under some media server, where really we should probably make our own folders in one spot for all of our JellyFin stuff. So let's have a look at that. And just really quickly, if you're going to use external storage, let me really quickly in like 20 seconds show you how to map your storage, so you're all ready to go. So if you're using external storage, you want to make a directory somewhere that you can mount your external storage onto. If you're not using external storage, you can still kind of follow this principle, maybe just change the external folder name to something that's more useful for you. So let's make these directories. So we'll make a directory on the under the directory mount, and we'll call it external. So, and we'll probably have to run this under sudo. So sudo and hit enter. I already have this directory, but just for you, make sure you make this, right? Tidy up our screen. Now we need to find out what our partition name is called for our external hard drive, and we can find that out pretty easily by running this command. Sudo fdisk-l. Scroll down, look for a big nice chunk of storage, and that's this one here. My passport is the name of my external storage. I know that's the one. And we just look for a partition name, which is dev sda1, and that's the one we want to mount onto that mount/external folder we just made. And that's really easy to do. Let's clear this up, and I'll show you how to do that. We just do a sudo mount dev sda1. I want to mount my external hard drive onto the mount external folder. Okay, and I hit enter. Now, to put it in the picture, my external storage has now been mounted onto that folder. So anything I create on that external folder will actually be on my hard drive now, and not my Raspberry Pi's SD card. If you're not using external storage, you could have just called that, I don't know, SD card, or you know, just whatever. You can name it whatever you want. It's just easy if you use external storage, you know where the external storage space is. Now let's go back and look at the directories that JellyFin needs. So you can see here that we need a JellyFin folder, and inside that JellyFin folder we need a config, we need a cache, and we need a media. So let's create those. So let's just change directory into our mount and to our external. I've just run a list inside of my external, and you can see that my Nextcloud is also in here, so it's all good. So what we're going to do is make a directory called JellyFin. Oh, we'll run sudo. Sorry, JellyFin. We need to make a JellyFin folder in here, so let's do a sudo make directory JellyFin, and then just quickly checking, we needed the cache, the config, and the media, so let's make those. So I've just made those folders inside the JellyFin folder, so you can see here our file path is now mount external JellyFin, and inside the JellyFin folder we have cache, config, and media. Now that we have our folders, let me just quickly take a breather and let's just kind of look over what we've just done. Well, all we've done is we made a folder and, you know, a path with some folders in it that our Docker container will look to store its configuration, its caching, and it will look for where we're storing our media. And our media is like our TV shows, our songs, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's all we're doing, is it doesn't matter if we're not following the path that JellyFin were telling us to use. We're just using our own one that's a bit cleaner, and especially if we're using external storage. Again, you can use whatever directory you want, just as long as the next step we're pointing our directories to the Docker container, so our container knows where to look. This will make a bit more sense when we start editing this command. So let's just quickly run over what this Docker command is doing, shall we? So if we look at this here, well, what's happening is that we're running a Docker run command. We're going to run the container, okay? Now, the -v means the volume. So we're going to create a bunch of volumes for this. So here, let me highlight this here. So let me kind of just bring this out on its own so we can kind of dissect what this command is doing. I just want you to understand this command. I won't explain all of them because they're the same. I just kind of want you to understand how this works. So it just helps understand why all these directories are being made and whatnot. So as you can see here, this part here before the semicolon is that this is the file path on our Raspberry Pi or on your actual physical server. Okay, and then this is the part we don't change because this side on this side of the semicolon is the folder path on the container where this is being mapped. So we can change this to whatever directory we want, and whatever directory we call that, that's where it's going to be mapped on the config on the container. So essentially, that config here needs to be the path to this config one here, and same with the media and the cache. So let's quickly start editing this command so it suits our new layout. So essentially all we need to do is copy this line here /mount external JellyFin. We'll copy that. Now let's make some changes. Essentially all we can do is copy right up to here and paste that in. And put the /, so it's now /mount external JellyFin config. And then up to here again, paste that in. Now it's /mount external JellyFin cache. And then same for the media. Paste that in. Mount external JellyFin media is mounted to media. And now what we've got to do is copy that command. Let's make this full screen. Sudo, paste that command in, and we'll be running sudo docker run, and we'll be mounting our mount external JellyFin config onto config, and you understand, and then the cache onto cache, and our external JellyFin media onto media. And now if we go into, if we do an ls, change into config, do an ls, there's actually stuff in here now because that container we just deployed just put some stuff in there. And now if we do a sudo docker container ls-a, we can see we have a JellyFin server up and it's running. It was created 37 seconds ago. So awesome. Now we can actually get into the fun part of configuring it. Now you'll notice that on the JellyFin side, I don't think, let's just check. Yeah, they don't actually tell you what port it natively runs on, so it can be a bit confusing. So you need to it's like, oh, how do I access this? Don't worry, I've got you. By default, it runs on port 8096. So enter in the IP address of your Raspberry Pi and then just put semicolon 8096 and hit enter. And now JellyFin will start loading. We are on our Docker instance of JellyFin. Now all we need to do is go through the setup. So we just look at our preferred display language. English United States is fine. I'll hit next. We need to enter in a username. I'm going to enter in TechDocs for my username. Let's do lowercase for good practice. I'll make a password. I've just added my password. I'll hit next. And now we can add our media library. So what this is it's asking us what folder is your media going to be stored in, okay? And we know that because it's just called media for us. So if we click here, and so we could go content type. So here, what we can do is actually have subdirectories and stuff like that. So you can specify it. So inside that media folder you just made, you could make another folder called movies, and then you would mount movies onto that inside media and then movies folder. But for now, since it's quite fresh, we'll say whatever's in the actual media folder will just be mixed content. Add, and it's under media because that's the folder that we have. And yep, media, and hit OK. And we'll hit OK because don't need to do anything else. And now I've just got that folder. That's fine. We didn't really need to add that, but yeah, that's just how you add your folders for wherever your media is stored. And we'll hit next. Yep, these languages look alright. I'll change my country to New Zealand. Next. Now here you can allow remote connections to this JellyFin server. I'll just leave that as default. I won't enable any of this, and I'll just hit next. And we're all done. So if I hit finish, it's going to sign us out. So now we need to log back in. We'll hit sign in with our username that we just made, and now we're here. So we don't actually have anything in that media folder, and that media folder is, if we do an ls, change directory to media, and that's here. So anything we put in here will be will show up. Now there's a couple of ways you can get media in here. One, you can transfer it to your Raspberry Pi running the scp command. If you don't know how to do that, there's another way that we can do it, and that is essentially filezilla. So that's that will be in the description, but this is an easy way for us to transfer, say if you've got the media on your desktop computer, and you can pretty much click and drag it over to your Raspberry Pi. So all you need to do at the top here is enter the IP address of your Raspberry Pi, and then the username and the password for your Raspberry Pi, and then connect on port 22, and then hit quick connect, and OK, and then this will connect to your Raspberry Pi, just like that. And then all you need to do is find that directory we made. I don't know if I can zoom in. No, I can't make this any bigger, sorry. You go into the mount directory, external, JellyFin, media, and you'd paste all your stuff in here. Now, there's actually one thing that you will need to check is that you'll see here that the owner on all this stuff is root. So what will actually happen, say if I wanted to copy, I've got a couple of my older YouTube videos here, if I were to copy and try to put this into the media folder, you'll see down here, oh, you can't see me because I'm in the way, I'll try and move this. It says here that it couldn't copy over because we don't actually have permission to copy it into that media folder. So we need to change that file permission. This will catch a lot of people up if you don't do this. So all you need to do, really easy, run this following command. So all you need to do is we'll just change directory 1 so we can see the media folder, and we'll run sudo ch own. So change ownership. Pi, and we'll change for the media. So I'm gonna hit enter, and now so all we've done is change the ownership of media to Pi. So Pi is the user on my one, but if you're using like a Ubuntu image or whatever, just change it to whoever this user is here, right? So now if we backtrack back to filezilla, hit refresh, you can see now that the owner is Pi, and now if I try to copy that video in, it's now transferring. You can see down the bottom where my mouse is. You can see now it's transferring across. So now we can actually get media in there because we actually have permissions to do that. So this is an easy way to actually get your media into JellyFin. Otherwise it can be a bit tricky, right? So just download filezilla, link will be in the description, enter the IP address, username, password, and then just find the directory. So sometimes you might start in one, but just change to the top root directory and just find your way down. Until you can find like the mount, the external JellyFin directory, media, and then everything goes in there. And again, this was what I was saying before. If you wanted to make it a bit cleaner, you can make a new folder here called TV, right? And then you can make another one in here called movies, right? And then you backtrack, and then you come back into JellyFin. And then what you can actually do, I know this might be a bit confusing, so if you follow along, you might have to rewind it and watch it again just to understand how this all works. But what you can do is actually click on the little person icon up here, and you'll go down into the admin section, dashboard, right? Libraries, and then we can add some more libraries to kind of make it a bit cleaner. So we can add a media library, and this one is just for movies. And we click folders, and inside of media there is a folder called the movies we just made, and that's where all our movies will be stored. So now when we want to upload stuff, we drop it into the movies folder, and it'll be nicely categorized. Do you know what I mean? And we hit OK, and done. So now if we go back to the main thing, so I don't have anything in that movies folder, but I did upload something just to the media folder. So inside mixed media, I now have my little GCP setup account video here. So if I click play here, I now have that little content up here, right? So now you can upload your videos and all of that up into here as well, and you just upload them into those folders, and then they will just start appearing here. So I actually have a couple of things I can upload. So I've got Pulp Fiction movie, and I've got the first season of Mr. Robot that I had that I've uploaded onto my computer from digital copies, from physical copies, and I'll show you kind of how they look. Right, so what I've done is I've created, I've added another library called TV shows, which is now mounted to that folder media TV. And once you actually upload stuff and make those libraries, it actually scans your libraries. But a good thing to do is just make sure you click here, scan all libraries, and it's just going to make sure that all that content you uploaded into your directories will now show up in your libraries. So now what I've done is I've gone into my movies folder from the directory, and if I hit play here, now Pulp Fiction is going to play, and now we get the cool little rating and everything down here, the Rotten Tomatoes and all of that. So yeah, so if I hit play, you actually see Pulp Fiction start to play. I'm going to pause it so I don't get copyright claimed, but yeah, and now all your media is there, so you just upload them and they will just start appearing in your library. So as you can see here, like next up, I've got a Mr. Robot episode here, I've got a Pulp Fiction thing down here, and then I've got like my GCP video I uploaded here, and it all adds up, and it all just starts adding up, and it starts getting categorized based on how you do it, and then this blank thing here will actually pop up with a nice image of like the Pulp Fiction movie image, and then as they more start appearing, it starts tiling and whatnot. Yeah, but that's essentially it. It's kind of a longer side of things for setting it up, but once it's set up, it's fantastic, and it's all running on Docker. If you're using external storage, it's really easy to manage. Just make sure that you change the ownership of that media folder, so you as the Pi user can easily copy files using filezilla. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope it makes sense and it was easy to follow. If you have any questions with any of these steps, please ask in the description or hit me up on Twitter, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. But until then, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, bye.